dare you humiliate me in front of everyone?
I only said what you were too afraid to admit.
The boardroom smelled like expensive leather and betrayal. I sat at the far end of the table, watching my wife smile at me like she was doing me a favor. Lila had her hair pulled back in that sleek way she'd perfected over the years, the kind of look that said, "I'm in charge now," without her having to open her mouth. Adrian Park sat 2 seats to her left, his suit probably worth more than my truck, his teeth so white they could guide ships to shore. 3 board members flanked them, people I'd hired, people who'd eaten at my table. "Ethan," Lila began, her voice soft and reasonable, the tone she used when she wanted something. "We've been talking, and we all agree that ColeFlow needs fresh leadership, a new direction." I didn't say anything. I just watched the projector screen behind them, noticed the smudge in the corner, wondered how long it had been there. Funny what your brain does when your life is ending. "The company has grown beyond its startup roots," Adrian added, leaning forward like we were friends. "You built something incredible, but scaling requires different skills, more modern approaches." Modern approaches. That was rich coming from a guy who managed other people's money and called it innovation. "We're restructuring," one of the board members said. His name was Phillips, and I'd brought him on because he was supposed to be loyal. For the good of the company. For the good of the company. I'd heard that phrase in every corporate coup documentary I'd ever watched. Never thought I'd hear it applied to me. Lila slid a document across the table. Her hand trembled slightly. Just a tremor, but I saw it. She was nervous. "Good. We need you to step aside as CEO," she said. "Sign this, and we'll make the transition smooth. You'll still have shares, still have income. But the day-to-day operations need to be handled by someone who can take ColeFlow into the future." I picked up the document. 30 pages of legal language that basically said I was fired from my own company. I flipped through it, not really reading, just buying time to think. Adrian's cologne was making my eyes water, or maybe that was rage. "Don't make this ugly, Ethan," Lila said quietly. I looked up at her, looked at all of them. Every face at that table had already decided. This wasn't a meeting, it was a formality. An execution dressed up in corporate speak and PowerPoint slides. So this is how the life I built dies, I thought. By committee. I set the document down and stood up. "I need to think about this." "There's nothing to think about," Adrian said, his voice hardening. "The decision is made." "Then why am I here?" Lila's eyes flickered. "To make it official, to show you respect the process." Respect the process. I almost laughed. Instead, I walked to the door and turned back. "I'll have my lawyer look at this." "Ethan," Phillips said, "if you fight this, it'll get messy. For everyone." I nodded slowly. "I'll keep that in mind." I left the building and sat in my truck for 20 minutes, hands on the wheel, not going anywhere. Through the windshield, I could see the ColeFlow logo on the building's facade. I'd designed that logo myself, back when the company was just me and a laptop in a basement apartment, back when I thought hard work and smart code could insulate you from betrayal. I'd taught myself programming at 16 because my family couldn't afford college. Spent years doing freelance work, building other people's systems, until I finally had enough saved to start my own company. ColeFlow was supposed to make logistics software that didn't suck. And it worked. We grew, we hired people, we made money. And now my wife and her banker boyfriend were taking it from me. I drove home in a fog, the city blurring past my windows. Our house looked the same as always, a 3-story Victorian in one of the older neighborhoods, the kind of place Lila had insisted we buy because it projected success. The lawn was perfect because we paid someone to make it perfect. The windows gleamed because we paid someone for that too. Inside, Lila was already home, her coat draped over the back of a chair, her heels clicking on the hardwood as she moved through the kitchen. She'd beaten me here, probably left the meeting 5 minutes after I did, and drove faster. "Ethan?" she said when she saw me. Her voice was different now, softer. The voice she used when we were alone and she needed me to believe she cared. I know that was hard. Was it? She poured herself wine. Didn't offer me any. "You have to understand, this is what's best for the company. You've been so emotionally attached, you can't see how you've been holding everyone back." Holding everyone back. I'd worked 80-hour weeks for 5 years to build ColeFlow. I'd mortgaged this house twice to make payroll when things were tight. I'd sacrificed weekends, holidays, sleep, and apparently my marriage to make the company successful. But sure, I was holding everyone back. "People have been talking," Lila continued, swirling her wine, "online, about your leadership style. They say you're controlling, old-fashioned, out of step with modern workplace culture." "Who's been saying that?" "Everyone," she shrugged. "It's just the consensus." The consensus. I wanted to ask who'd started that consensus, who'd planted those ideas in people's heads, but I already knew. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone I didn't recognize anymore. When had that happened? When had my wife become a stranger? "I'm going to bed," I said. "It's 7:30. "I'm tired." I went upstairs and lay on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. Downstairs, I could hear Lila moving around, her phone ringing, her voice dropping to a murmur. I got up and walked to the top of the stairs, listening. "No, he signed it," she was saying. "Well, he will. He's in shock right now, but he'll come around." Pause. I know. Tomorrow night? Let me check." Another pause, longer this time. "I miss you too." I went back to the bedroom and closed the door quietly. Stood there in the dark, feeling something cold and heavy settle in my chest. I'd suspected the affair for weeks, but hearing it confirmed was different. Worse, more real. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay there planning, thinking, remembering every detail of the company's structure, every clause in every contract I'd ever signed. Lila thought I was broken. She thought I'd roll over and accept this. She was wrong. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? 3 days later, I still hadn't signed the document. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Teresa, who charged by the minute and was worth every penny, had gone through it line by line and confirmed what I already suspected. It was terrible. If I signed, I'd be giving up operational control, most of my voting rights, and any say in the company's direction. "Don't sign this," Teresa said, sitting across from me in her downtown office, "not without major revisions." "Can they force me to?" "Not legally, but they can make your life hell if you refuse. Lawsuits, board votes, public statements about you being an obstruction to growth. It'll get ugly." I nodded. I'd expected that. "There's something else," she added, pulling out another document. "This is the shareholder agreement from when you founded the company. You created a specific clause, something called a key man provision. If you're forced out without cause, or if there's evidence of mismanagement by the new leadership, you retain certain veto rights over major financial decisions." I'd forgotten about that clause. Helena Marsh, a senior banker who'd helped me structure the company's finances years ago, had insisted on it. Insurance, she'd called it. You never know when you'll need leverage. "Does Lila know about this?" "I doubt it," Teresa said. "It's buried deep in the agreement, and I'm guessing she didn't read it carefully. Most people don't." I left Teresa's office feeling something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. It was small and fragile, but it was there. I had leverage. I just needed to figure out how to use it. That night, Lila suggested I move out. We were sitting in the living room, the space between us on the couch feeling like miles. She had her laptop open, pretending to work, but I could see her watching me from the corner of her eye. "I think it would be good for you to have your own space," she said carefully. "Just for a little while, to clear your head and figure out what you want to do next." "You're kicking me out?" "I'm suggesting a temporary separation, for both our sakes." "How considerate." She closed her laptop with a snap. "Don't be like that. You're making this harder than it needs to be." "Am I?" "Yes." Her voice had an edge now. "You're angry, I get it. But you're not thinking clearly. Moving out will give you perspective." Perspective. She wanted me out of the house so she could have Adrian over without worrying about me walking in. That's what this was about. Not my well-being, not our marriage, just convenience. "Fine," I said. "I'll start looking for a place tomorrow." Her relief was visible. "Thank you. I think you'll see this is for the best." I moved into a furnished apartment near the university, a bland 2-bedroom with white walls and cheap furniture. It felt like a hotel room, anonymous, temporary, but it served a purpose. It gave me space to think, to plan, away from Lila's watchful eyes. Jamie, my operations manager at ColeFlow, called me the second night I was there. "They're gutting your systems," he said without preamble. "Lila brought in consultants. They're recommending we switch to an off-the-shelf platform instead of using the proprietary code you built. She's destroying the company's competitive advantage." "Yep, and she's doing it fast. The board meeting to approve the change is scheduled for next week." I thanked Jamie and hung up. Then I sat at the small kitchen table and started making notes. Every decision Lila was making, every change, every consultant hired. I started building a case. Not for sentiment, for documentation. 2 weeks after I moved out, Lila organized a birthday dinner for me. My birthday wasn't for another month, but she insisted, said she wanted to do something nice, show there were no hard feelings. I knew it was a performance, but I went anyway. Sometimes you learn more by watching people pretend. The restaurant was trendy, the kind of place with exposed brick and Edison bulbs and a cocktail menu longer than the food menu, I arrived exactly on time and found a table full of Lila's friends. A few ColeFlow employees I barely knew, Lila's sister, Adrian, of course, sitting at her right hand like he belonged there. "Ethan," Lila waved me over, all smiles and warmth for the crowd. "We're so glad you could make it." I sat at the far end of the table, which seemed appropriate. For the next hour, I watched people eat expensive appetizers and make small talk about my life like I wasn't there. "So, Ethan, what are you going to do with all your free time?" someone asked. A friend of Lila's, I thought. I didn't remember her name. "I'm consulting," I said vaguely. "That's wonderful. It must be nice to have stepped aside from the stress of running a company." Stepped aside, as if it had been my choice. Another person leaned across the table. I saw online that ColeFlow is bringing in fresh leadership. Very exciting. Very forward-thinking. Very, I agreed. Adrian spoke up then, his voice carrying across the table. That takes real character. I met his eyes. He was smiling, but there was something cold underneath, a kind of smugness. He thought he'd won. More drinks arrived. More conversations swirled around me. Someone brought up seeing Lila at a hotel bar recently, mentioned it casually, said she'd been with some finance guy. The person was drunk, didn't realize what they were saying. Lila's face went tight for just a second before she laughed it off. "Oh, you mean Adrian?" "Please, Adrian handles our accounts. Ethan knows there's nothing strange about that." Everyone looked at me. I picked up my water glass and smiled. "Of course. Nothing strange about late-night meetings at hotel bars. That's just modern finance." The table went quiet. Adrian's smile disappeared. Lila shot me a look that could have cut glass. I raised my glass higher. To my wife, who apparently found a new way to handle our accounts without telling me. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else coughed. Lila's sister looked like she wanted to disappear under the table. "Ethan," Lila said, her voice low and dangerous. "Can I talk to you outside?" "I'm enjoying my birthday dinner." "Outside, now." We stood in the parking lot, away from the windows, away from curious eyes. Lila's face was flushed, her hands shaking. "What is wrong with you?" she hissed. "You embarrassed me in there." "Did I?" "You made it sound like there's something going on between me and Adrian." "Is there?" Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "How dare you?" "It's a simple question. You're paranoid, you're bitter, and you're making everyone uncomfortable with your attitude." I stepped closer. "I know, Lila. I've known for weeks. I'm just waiting for you to be honest about it." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing in the parking lot with the smell of exhaust and the distant sound of laughter from inside the restaurant. I went back inside long enough to close my tab and leave. As I was walking out, a woman stopped me. Helena Marsh. I hadn't realized she was there. "Ethan," she said quietly, slipping a business card into my hand. "If you ever want to talk about your accounts yourself, call me, privately." I looked down at the card, then at her. "Why?" "Because I don't like watching good people get taken advantage of." She patted my arm and walked back inside. I drove back to my apartment and sat at the kitchen table until dawn, thinking about key man provisions and shareholder agreements and bankers who didn't like Adrian Park. The news broke fast. By evening, the local business press had picked up the story. ColeFlow founder returns in dramatic board coup. Maya's Instagram was exploding with speculation and hot takes. Screenshots of the gala shove incident were being reshared alongside new gossip about the finance affair scandal. I went back to my apartment and slept for 12 hours straight, the first real sleep I'd had in weeks. When I woke up, there were 17 missed calls. Lila, several times. Adrian, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails about needing to talk things through. A reporter from the local tech blog. And one from Daniel's assistant, asking me to call back. I called Daniel first. "The press wants a statement," he said. "About the transition, about your role going forward. Tell them I'm considering my options." "Are you planning to stay involved with the company?" "I don't know yet. Maybe, maybe not. Right now, I'm just enjoying watching it not be destroyed." He laughed. "Fair enough. For what it's worth, you played this perfectly. I didn't think you had it in you to be this ruthless." Neither did I. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table and thought about that, about who I'd become over the past 2 months. The surveillance, the gossip manipulation, the calculated revenge. This wasn't who I used to be, but maybe it was who I needed to be. My phone rang again. Helena this time. "Adrian's been placed on administrative leave," she said. The ethics review takes time, but given everything that came out in the meeting, the bank can't keep him in a client-facing role. His career here is effectively over. Good. There's something else. He's been calling everyone he knows, trying to spin the story, claiming he was set up. It's not working, but he's getting increasingly erratic about it. I thought you should know. Thanks for the warning. Ethan? Be careful. Desperate people do stupid things. I promised I would and hung up. Then I looked at Adrian's voicemails and listened to the progression from anger to panic to something that sounded almost like pleading. He was unraveling. Good. Let him fall apart. Let him feel what I felt. But Helena was right about desperate people. That night, around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from the building security app. Someone was at the main entrance requesting access to my apartment. The camera showed Adrian, disheveled in a wrinkled shirt, his perfect hair messy, his eyes wild. He pressed the buzzer repeatedly. I didn't answer, didn't engage. Just watched the camera feed as he grew more agitated, pacing in front of the door, pulling out his phone and calling me again. I let it ring through to voicemail. Finally, building security approached him. There was a brief argument I couldn't hear, and then Adrian left, getting into his car and sitting there for 20 minutes before driving away. I called Helena. He just showed up at my apartment. Did he threaten you? He didn't get in. Security turned him away, but he's definitely not stable right now. I'll make a note in his file. If he shows up at the bank or contacts any clients, we'll consider it grounds for immediate termination rather than administrative leave. The next morning, I decided it was time to deal with Adrian directly. Not violently, not illegally, but permanently. I did some research and found out where Adrian lived, his actual primary residence rather than the downtown condo. It was in an expensive suburb, the kind of neighborhood where houses cost 7 figures and everyone drove German cars. I drove out there mid-afternoon when most people were at work. Adrian's house was impressive. Modern architecture, all clean lines and big windows, with a 3-car garage and a lawn that looked like it was groomed daily. His BMW sat in the driveway, which meant he was home, probably drowning his sorrows or making frantic calls to lawyers. I parked across the street and waited. An hour later, Adrian came out, dressed more casually than I'd ever seen him, headed for his car. I got out of my truck and walked across the street. He saw me and froze. For a second, I thought he might run back inside. Instead, he straightened up, tried to look confident. What do you want? To make sure we understand each other. I don't have anything to say to you. That's fine. You can just listen. He glanced around the quiet street, probably calculating whether any neighbors were watching. You're trespassing. I'm on a public sidewalk, but if you want to call the police, go ahead. I'm sure they'd love to hear about everything that's happened. His jaw worked. You destroyed my career. No. You did that yourself when you decided to mix business with your ego and your affair with my wife. I just made sure people knew about it. She came to me. She wanted out of your marriage. She wanted someone who wasn't a failure. I smiled. Is that what she told you? That I was a failure? I built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing. What did you do? Manage other people's money and skim commissions? He moved toward me, hands clenched. I didn't step back. Go ahead, I said quietly. Hit me. Give me another reason to destroy what's left of your reputation. There are cameras everywhere in this neighborhood. Your neighbors would love to see their successful wealth manager assaulting someone on the street. He stopped, breathing hard. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to stay away from me, stay away from Lila, stay away from anyone connected to ColeFlow. You're going to take whatever job you can get after the bank finishes with you, and you're going to rebuild your life somewhere else, far away from here. You can't tell me what to do. Actually, I can, because if I see you anywhere near my life again, I'll make sure every person in your professional network knows exactly what you did. The conflicts of interest, the lies to the board, the affair with a client's wife. You think your career is damaged now? I can make it so you never work in finance again. His face was red, veins standing out on his temples. You think you're so smart, so much better than me. But you're just a bitter divorced guy who couldn't keep his wife happy. And you're the man who slept with her and still lost everything. I'd say I came out ahead. I turned and walked back to my truck. Behind me, Adrian was shouting something about lawyers and lawsuits, but it was empty noise. We both knew he had nothing left to threaten me with. As I drove away, I saw him standing in his driveway, alone and furious, his perfect house and perfect car suddenly looking like props in a life that was falling apart. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The next few days were strange, quiet. After weeks of constant tension and planning, I didn't know what to do with peace. I stayed in the apartment, ignored most calls, and tried to figure out what came next. Daniel called with an offer. Stay on as CTO, help transition the company to its next phase. Good salary, good equity, no CEO responsibilities. It was tempting. It was safe. I told him I'd think about it. Lila called too, from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "I'm staying with my sister," she said without preamble. "The house feels empty now." "Good. Can we talk? In person?" "Why would we do that?" "Because we were married for 8 years, and maybe we owe each other more than just lawyers and silence." I thought about saying no, about letting this end without any final confrontation, but there was something unfinished between us, something that needed to be said face to face. "Where?" "The house. Tomorrow afternoon? I'll be packing some things." I agreed and hung up. The house looked the same from the outside, but when I walked in the next day, it felt different. Emptier. Colder. Lila was in the living room, surrounded by boxes half filled with her clothes and books and all the decorative objects she'd insisted we needed. She looked different too. No makeup, hair in a simple ponytail, wearing jeans and an old sweater. This was Lila without the armor, and for a moment I remembered why I'd fallen in love with her years ago. Before the company. Before the obsession with status. Before Adrian. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You said we needed to talk?" She sat on the couch, gestured for me to sit across from her. I stayed standing. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "For all of it. The affair, the company, the way I treated you. I convinced myself I was doing what was best, but really I was just selfish." "Yes, you were. Adrian told me you were holding the company back, that your vision was limited, that if I wanted ColeFlow to reach its potential, I needed to take control. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him, because it justified what I was already doing, what I wanted to do." She looked down at her hands. "I fell in love with the idea of being a CEO more than I loved you. That's the truth." I sat down then, across from her, suddenly tired. "Why tell me this now?" "Because you deserve to hear it. Because I'm trying to figure out who I am without all the things I thought defined me. The company, the marriage, the image. You'll figure it out." "Will I?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone lost. Someone who'd burned down her life chasing something she thought she wanted, only to find it was empty. Maya's been posting about me," Lila continued. "About the affair, about being removed from the company. My friends aren't answering my calls. My mother called to tell me I'd embarrassed the family." She laughed bitterly. "Turns out when you build your whole identity on being successful and admired, losing those things destroys you." "I wouldn't know," I said. "I never cared about admiration. I just wanted to build something good." "I know. That's why you won, and I lost." We sat in silence for a while. The house settled around us, creaking quietly, full of memories that didn't belong to us anymore. "What are you going to do?" I asked finally. "Leave town, probably. Start over somewhere nobody knows me. Get a job that isn't about status or power or proving anything. Maybe figure out who I am without all the bullshit." "That sounds healthy." "It sounds terrifying." She stood up, started packing again. I watched her fold a dress carefully, place it in a box, and I realized this was the last time I'd see her. Not because of anger or spite, but because we were simply done with each other. "For what it's worth," she said without looking at me, "you were a better husband than I deserved." "Yes, I was." She smiled slightly at that. "No false modesty?" "Not anymore. You taught me that." I left her there packing up the remnants of her old life and drove away from the house for the last time. I didn't look back. That evening, I met with Teresa to finalize the divorce paperwork. It was straightforward now. No fight over assets, no custody battles, just a clean division of what we'd built together. "You're remarkably calm about this," Teresa observed. "I'm tired. There's a difference." "Fair enough. The papers should be filed by next week. You'll be officially divorced in about 3 months." "Good." She leaned back in her chair, studying me. "So what now? Are you going back to ColeFlow?" "Maybe. Daniel offered me CTO." But I'm not sure I want to go back. It's not the same company anymore, and I'm not the same person." "What do you want?" I thought about that. What did I want? Not revenge anymore, that was done. Not the company back, exactly. Not even Lila's suffering, though I'd certainly caused enough of it. "I want to build something new," I said finally. "Something that's just mine. No partners, no board, no investors pushing me in directions I don't want to go." Teresa smiled. "Then do that." It sounded simple when she said it. Maybe it was. I left her office and walked through downtown as the sun set, the city turning golden in that brief moment between day and night. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope, but I wasn't done with Adrian yet. Not quite. The bank had placed him on leave, and the ethics investigation was underway, but he was still out there, still scrambling to save his reputation. Helena told me he'd hired a crisis PR firm, was trying to spin the story as a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. That needed to stop. I started making calls. Quiet calls to people in the finance community, to journalists who covered business scandals, to compliance officers at other banks. I didn't spread lies, I just made sure people knew the facts. The conflict of interest. The undisclosed relationships. The affair with a client's wife that compromised his professional judgment. The story grew. Not into a major scandal, Adrian wasn't important enough for that, but into a cautionary tale that circulated through financial circles. The kind of story people told at conferences and happy hours. Did you hear about that wealth manager who tanked his career over an affair? Within a week, Adrian's PR effort collapsed. You can't spin documented facts. Helena called me on Friday. He's been terminated, effective immediately. That was fast. The investigation found enough ethical violations that keeping him wasn't worth the liability. He's being escorted out of the building as we speak. Do you think he'll land somewhere else? Eventually, maybe, but not at a major bank, not in this city. His reputation is poisoned now. I thanked her and hung up, feeling that cold satisfaction again. Adrian had tried to take everything from me. Now he was the one left with nothing. But apparently Adrian hadn't learned his lesson about desperate actions. That night, I was working late at the apartment when I heard screeching tires outside. I looked out the window and saw Adrian's BMW parked badly in front of the building, one wheel up on the curb. Adrian himself was getting out, stumbling slightly, clearly drunk or close to it. My phone buzzed. Building security. Sir, there's someone here demanding to see you. We've told him no, but he's getting aggressive. Call the police, I said. Don't let him in the building. Through the window, I watched as Adrian started yelling at the security guard, gesturing wildly. He was completely unraveled now, the polished facade gone. This was what losing everything looked like. The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers approached Adrian, tried to calm him down. He shoved one of them. Bad move. They had him in handcuffs 30 seconds later, pressed against his own car while he screamed about injustice and conspiracies. I recorded it all from my window, not because I planned to use it, but because documentation had become a reflex. Adrian spent that night in jail for drunk and disorderly conduct and assaulting an officer. I know because Helena called me the next morning with updates she'd gotten from her contacts. He's out on bail, but now he's got charges. This isn't going away quietly. Good. Ethan, I know he deserves this, but you should be careful. He's past the point of rational behavior. I'm always careful. After we hung up, I thought about Adrian in a jail cell, his perfect life completely destroyed. Part of me felt bad about it. A small part. The rest of me remembered the boardroom coup, the smug smile, the affair, the attempt to steal my company. He'd earned everything that happened to him. But Helena was right about one thing. Cornered animals were dangerous. I spent the next few days being hyper-aware of my surroundings, checking my rearview mirror constantly, parking in well-lit areas, making sure people knew where I was. Adrian didn't show up again, but I heard through the grapevine that he'd left town, gone to stay with family in another state while he dealt with his legal issues, and tried to figure out what to do with his ruined life. That should have felt like victory, complete and total, but it just felt empty. Daniel called with good news about ColeFlow. The company was stabilizing under his leadership, clients were staying, employees were relieved, the toxic atmosphere Lila and Adrian had created was dissipating. You should come by the office, he said. Let people see you. Remind them what the company was built on. I don't know if that's a good idea. It's a great idea. You're a legend there now. The founder who fought back and won. People love that story. I'm not a legend. I'm just someone who refused to give up. Same thing. I went to the office the next day, walking through doors I'd walked through 1,000 times before. But everything felt different. The lobby had been redecorated. New people sat at desks I didn't recognize. The company had moved on without me, and that was fine. Jamie saw me first and broke into a huge smile. Boss? Not the boss anymore. You'll always be the boss. He pulled me into a hug. We heard what happened. That boardroom play was legendary. Other employees came over, wanting to shake my hand, ask questions, hear the story. I kept it brief, deflected most of the attention back to their work, asked about projects I knew were important. Daniel appeared from his new office and rescued me. Let's talk privately. His office was what used to be mine. He'd redecorated, but the view was the same, the city spread out below, full of buildings and lives and stories I'd never know. So, he said, what do you think? It's not my company anymore. No, it's not. but it could be again. Take the CTO position. Help me build this into what you always wanted it to be. I thought about that, about working in a company I'd created but no longer owned, about reporting to someone else, about letting go of control. I need more time to think. Take all the time you need. The offer stands. I left the office feeling uncertain, which was strange after weeks of clear purpose. Revenge had given me direction. Now that it was done, I didn't know what came next. That night, I sat in the apartment and made a list of options. CTO at ColeFlow, start a new company, leave tech entirely, move to another city, travel, disappear. Everything felt possible and nothing felt right. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Cole? A woman's voice, professional. This is Officer Martinez with City Police. We have a situation concerning Adrian Park, and we'd like you to come to the station if you're available. My stomach dropped. What kind of situation? Mr. Park has been making threats, against you specifically. We're taking them seriously given his recent behavior, and we'd like to discuss protective measures. I drove to the police station in a daze. Threats. After everything, Adrian was still trying to hurt me. Officer Martinez was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who laid it out clearly. Adrian had been sending emails and text messages to former colleagues, to people connected to ColeFlow, to anyone who would listen. The messages were increasingly unhinged, blaming me for his problems, talking about making things right and getting justice. We don't think he's planning physical violence, she said, but we can't be certain. Has he tried to contact you directly? Not since he was arrested. Good. Keep it that way. Don't respond to any messages from him. Don't engage. And call us immediately if he shows up anywhere near you. She gave me her card and a file number. I drove back to the apartment feeling sick. I'd wanted Adrian destroyed professionally. I'd wanted him humiliated and broken. But I hadn't wanted this spiral into actual potential danger. Or had I? I thought about every step I'd taken. The surveillance. The gossip. The boardroom ambush. Each one calculated to cause maximum damage. Had I created this situation? Pushed a man past his breaking point? I didn't sleep that night. The call came 3 days later. Adrian had been arrested again, this time for violating a restraining order I didn't know had been filed. Apparently, Helena and the bank's legal team had gotten a protective order on behalf of the bank's employees after his threatening messages. When Adrian showed up at the bank's headquarters trying to confront someone, security had called the police. He's in custody, Helena told me, and given his previous arrest and the new charges, he won't be getting out on bail this time. Not quickly, anyway. Where does this end? For him, probably a plea deal, mandated therapy, maybe probation. His career is over, his marriage is falling apart. I heard his wife filed for separation. He's lost everything. Good, I said automatically, but I didn't feel it anymore. I just felt tired. Ethan, are you okay? I don't know. We talked for a few more minutes about practical things, security measures, whether I needed to file my own restraining order. Then she said something that stuck with me. Revenge is satisfying until it's not. Until you realize destroying someone else didn't actually fix what was broken inside you. When did you become a philosopher? When I watched too many smart people ruin their lives over grudges. She paused. You won, Ethan. Completely. Don't let winning turn into something ugly. After she hung up, I sat with that for a long time. I had won. Lila was gone, disgraced, starting over somewhere else. Adrian was in jail, facing charges, his career destroyed, his life in shambles. The company was saved. My reputation was intact, maybe better than intact. I'd gotten everything I wanted. So why did I feel hollow? I called Teresa and accepted Daniel's offer. CTU at ColeFlow, effective immediately. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. A place to focus that wasn't revenge. That weekend, I moved out of the temporary apartment and into a new place closer to downtown. Not huge, not fancy, just mine. I unpacked boxes and tried to imagine what a life looked like that wasn't centered on anger and planning and payback. Monday morning, I walked into ColeFlow as an employee again. Jamie met me at the door with coffee and a huge grin. Welcome back, boss. CTU, I corrected. Daniel's the boss now. Semantics. The day was full of meetings and catch-ups and technical decisions I'd missed. It felt good to be doing actual work again instead of plotting, to be building instead of destroying. That afternoon, Daniel called me into his office. How's it feel? Strange. Good. I don't know yet. Give it time. He slid a folder across the desk. I wanted you to see this. It's the quarterly report. Revenue's up. Client satisfaction is up. Employee morale is recovering. You saved this company, Ethan. Not just from Lila and Adrian, from becoming something ugly. I flipped through the report. The numbers were solid. The trajectory was good. ColeFlow would survive and probably thrive. You saved it, I said. I just made space for you to do that. Take the compliment. I smiled despite myself. Fine, we saved it. Together. After work, I went for a walk through downtown, letting the city wash over me. The same streets I'd walked through months ago, gutted and angry. They looked different now. Or maybe I looked different. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know what you did, all of it, and I'll make you pay. Adrian, still sending threats from whatever phone he had access to. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I forwarded it to Officer Martinez and deleted it. Adrian couldn't hurt me anymore. He was just noise now, a problem for his lawyers and therapists to deal with. I kept walking. 2 weeks later, Lila's lawyer sent divorce papers. I signed them without reading them closely, trusting that Teresa had reviewed everything. It was over. Really, truly over. A month after that, I heard through Helena that Adrian had taken a plea deal. Therapy, probation, community service. He'd moved out of state to live with family, taking a job at some small regional firm that didn't care about his past. He'd become irrelevant. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt nothing. But slowly, over the following weeks, I started to feel something else. Not happiness exactly, but peace. The constant anger that had driven me for months began to fade. I threw myself into work at ColeFlow, rebuilding systems Lila had damaged, mentoring younger engineers, doing the thing I'd always been good at, making technology work better. Maya posted one final update about the whole saga, a podcast episode titled The Revenge of the Tech Bro that recapped everything that had happened. I listened to it once, heard myself described as everything from a stalker to a genius to a cautionary tale about corporate vengeance. Let them talk. I had work to do. 3 months after the boardroom meeting, Daniel called me into his office with news. I got an acquisition offer, a serious one, from a Fortune 500 company that wants our technology and our team. Are you taking it? I'm considering it, but I wanted your opinion first. You built this company, you saved it. You should have a say in whether we sell. I thought about ColeFlow, about the years I'd poured into it, the nights I'd stayed late fixing code, the dreams I'd had for what it could become. Sell it, I said. Take the money and let them scale it properly. That was always the goal anyway, to build something bigger than us. You're sure? Yes, he smiled. Then let's make it happen. The sale went through 2 months later. Daniel and I both walked away with enough money to never work again if we didn't want to. The Fortune 500 company kept most of the team, honored existing contracts, and integrated ColeFlow's technology into their larger platform. It was everything I'd always wanted for the company. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt nothing. I was sitting in my apartment, staring at a bank balance I could barely comprehend when Maya called. Ethan Cole, you magnificent bastard. I just heard about the sale. News travels fast. Always does. So what's next for you? Another startup? Early retirement on a beach somewhere? I have no idea. Well, when you figure it out, give me an exclusive. The Revenge of the Tech Bro, Part 2, whatever happens next. I laughed despite myself. I'll think about it. After we hung up, I sat there in the quiet apartment and tried to figure out what I felt. Satisfaction at having won? Relief that it was over? Regret for the time wasted on revenge? All of it. None of it. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you find whatever you're looking for. L. Lila. Reaching out one last time from whatever new life she was building. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed a response. I forgive you. I hope you find it too. I hit send and felt something break loose inside me. Not anger or satisfaction or revenge. Just release. I deleted her number, deleted Adrian's threats, deleted all the documentation I'd carefully compiled. I didn't need any of it anymore. The next morning, I walked into ColeFlow's offices for the last time. My contract as CTO was technically fulfilled with the sale. Daniel was moving on to advise the acquiring company. Jamie had a great new role. Everyone was moving forward. It was time for me to do the same. I cleaned out my desk, said goodbye to the people who mattered, and walked out into the bright afternoon sun. The city stretched out in front of me, full of possibilities I couldn't see yet. Somewhere out there, Lila was rebuilding her life. Adrian was serving his probation and trying to become someone new. Helena was still at the bank, still helping people navigate the complicated world of finance. Teresa was taking on new clients with tangled legal problems, and I was free. Free from the company, free from the marriage, free from the revenge that had consumed me, just free. I got in my truck and drove with no destination in mind, no plan, no strategy, just the open road and whatever came next. And for the first time in years, that was enough. 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 Was enough.